Hi and welcome to this DCP web tutorial. In today's tutorial I'm going to show you how to create an invoice template in Excel. Okay, so before we start this tutorial, if you're interested in bookkeeping, you want to learn more about bookkeeping, the process behind it, or the process that I particularly use in terms of managing my business accounts, then you can go over to YouTube, and I'll put links in the YouTube description to my bookkeeping training tutorial. It comes in 4 parts, and you can see it's quite popular. It's got over 184,000 views, and lots of people have liked that particular video, so I assume that you're going to like it too, and it will give you a bit more detailed information about bookkeeping and the processes behind it, the ones that I use typically when I'm managing my books for my business. So I'll put a link to the training videos inside the YouTube description, but for now let's go ahead and close down the web browser and we'll go ahead and open up Microsoft Excel. So we're going to create a custom invoice today. So we want to start from a blank workbook, because I want to explain everything in detail, how you go about creating this custom invoice. So we've got a blank workbook here, and don't worry if you don't know too much about Excel, you'll learn quite a few things about Excel during this tutorial as well. And we're going to go to File, we're going to go to Save As here, and we want to just save this work. So always save your work before you start. It's always a wise thing to do. We'll go to my desktop and I've got this folder. Now the name of the file that we're going to create is called template invoice. Let's actually call it invoice template -01. And we're going to use this invoice template to create more invoices that we'll typically send to our customers. So I'll explain that as well. So let's go ahead and click the save button, and I never like to leave it as sheet 1, so I'm going to just call this invoice template, just like this. So we'll save our work, and the first thing we want to do is just type into this column A. So this is column A, this is the first cell. I'm just going to type in invoice, and we're going to go to the file menu here and then click print. Right, it seems a strange thing to do, but we can see the word invoice written in there, and we're just going to click the back button. When we do that, what happens is you'll see these dotted lines. You might just be able to see the dotted line here, and you'll see a dotted line going this way and you'll see one going that way. If I zoom right out, you can see them much more clearly now. So this is the area that we're going to focus on creating our invoice, because this represents one page within Excel. So these are all pages, all of these blocks will be a separate page, right? So we want to create our invoice within the realms of this one block here. Anything that we put outside of it or underneath here is going to print on a second page, and we want to avoid that. So just remember to do that. Just type in the word invoice. You can delete that now, but then you'll get these dotted lines, and those dotted lines will give us some guidelines as to the realms of where we can put our content for our invoice. So let's just save this. Okay, so we need to sort out the margins of our document and the maximum width that we can use, because we want to get as much space in our document as possible. So you don't have to do this, but I'm just going to go to the home here. I'm going to select this just to show you and highlight it yellow, just this row. You don't need to do this, but I'm just going to explain what we're going to do. So I'm going to highlight this row yellow, go to File, and then go to Print. And we can see there's a big gap here, there's a gap here on the side, there's a bigger gap on this side, and we want to just sort out Excel so that the gaps at the top and at the bottom and around the edges is at the smallest amount possible, but still there'll be a gap there, right? So to do that, first thing we want to do is grab this this handle here between I and J, and we want to drag it to the side. And when we start to drag it to the side, you'll see that this dotted line will jump back. So we just want to move it back a little bit until the line sits on the right hand side, this dotted line, right? So you can move it a little bit to the side, and on your screen it might be a slightly different adjustment. So right around here you can see that it's almost aligned with this line here, just like this. So that's going to be our maximum width. So when we go to File and Print, now we can see the gap on this side and the gap on this side is pretty even, right? Last time it was cut around here. So that's one thing we can sort out, is just to sort out the width here. Next thing we want to do is really sort out the margins. Let's go back to our page layout, go to the margins here and go to custom margins here. And inside custom margins, I'm going to set the top one to 0.5. I'm going to copy this value. So press Control A, Control C, or Command A, Command C on the Mac. And then we're just going to press Control V or Command V on the Mac and paste in this 0.5 value, or you can just type it in yourself, right? So we want 0.5 value all the way around, and we'll click OK. That gives us a bit more space to work with. So we can now select this row. Can you see this is now white here? So if we select it again and make it yellow, make everything yellow, let's just go back to File and Print, and now we can see we've got a smaller gap here and here, and we can actually increase the width of this last cell just to fill in that little space there. So it should be like almost this size gap. This just gives us much more space in our document to create our spreadsheet. Right, so when we print it, it will still print fine, but we're just going to have a really small margin at the top. You can increase that or decrease it as you like using those settings, but I like to give as much space. I'm going to drag this handle to the side a bit more, and so you can see this dotted line snaps this side. I'm just going to drag it back a little bit to just around here, So here it's nice. So we'll go to File, Print. We can see we've got a nice gap here, and everything is quite even now, yeah. And then on my computer, it's almost aligned with this word arrange, just kind of like in that sort of line. So let's select all of these cells. We can get rid of this yellow color. We don't want that. And you know, in the invoice template, typically you're going to have your logo and you're going to have your trading address and a few other bits of information. So let's go ahead and click save. And I need to just grab a sample logo that we're going to use in this tutorial. So I'm just going to open up the web browser. You need to go and get your logo, and I would recommend that you speak to your designer or your developer. I'm going to use a test one here, but speak to your designer or your developer and ask them to give you your logo on a white background or a transparent background, either one, right? So these are all different logos that I've designed for my clients. I'm just going to pick a random one. Let's take this, let's just find something that looks nice. They all look too nice, that's the problem. So let's find something maybe like this Canary Wolf shoppers, right? Personal shoppers. So here's the logo. In fact, we won't use that one. We'll use, let's just use this El Toro, right? This one. So here's the logo. Try and get your logo in the best quality possible. And I'm just going to drag and drop that into the folder on my desktop. So let's just drag and drop that into here. And we can close down this browser. And inside of this folder, we'll just call this company logo. And we're going to create a folder and call it assets. Right, call it assets, and then we can drag that logo into here. Now we've got it inside of the assets here, and we want to add that to Excel. So let's just left click in this first cell here, and we're going to go to insert picture, and then this device here. Click it, and then it will go to our computer. We can go to the desktop, we can go to this folder, go into assets and click that logo and insert it. So now we've got the logo here, but you can see there's quite a big wide gap at the top and the bottom. But let's first resize this logo a little bit. All right, that's probably about the size that I want it to be. I want it to be quite large, but not too large. And we need to crop this logo. So you could do that in Photoshop, but you know, why use Photoshop when Excel can do the work for you? So if we left click outside, if we click on the logo itself, when we click on the logo, there's a crop tool over here. So if we click on that crop tool, you'll see these black handles appear. And that allows us to drag that black handle carefully, and we drag it up so that it just sits right underneath the word Spanish restaurant. And we're going to drag this one down so that it sits right here just above the text. And we're even going to crop it from the right hand side here. You have to be a little bit careful. You can hold down the control key and use your mouse wheel to zoom in. That makes life a little bit easier for you, right? You can zoom in. I'm going to crop close as possible, but not exactly to the edge, but as close as possible. Just leaving a little bit of a gap around the edge, a tiny amount, right? Like this. And once you're happy with that, hit the enter key. In fact, what do? We left click outside, I believe. Let's left click. Yeah, left click outside, and when you click on the logo, it will be cropped out like this. And now you can drag it into position. So we want it quite close to the top here, like this. We might make it a tiny little bit smaller. Something like this will be good. Let's hold down the control key and use the mouse wheel to zoom back out, and we can zoom all the way back out. Remember, this dotted line is our maximum page width, and right down here you'll see the bottom of the page as well. So let's go to our save, and let's just go to File, Print, and we can see the logo has been positioned here, and you can adjust it slightly if you want. But like I was saying to you, I want to try and have as much space in the document for our content for the invoice, right? We don't want big margins. This should be fine, and when you print this out, there's a gap here, so you shouldn't have any problems with the printing. So next thing we want to do is add our company address. We can do that in Excel directly. So probably the first line or the first row, let's just double click in here and let's just type in, I'm just going to make the address up, right? So I'm just going to call it 67 Glen Grove Road. And then we will click here and we'll type in Stratford, that's the area, the city is going to be London, and then the postcode will be E15 4DL. Right, so this isn't quite right. So what we want to do is select all of the cells and right align them. So now they're sitting like this. And really what we could do is just select all of these. So hold down the left mouse button, hold it down and select all of them. Press Control X to cut them. Click on the letter J and then press Control V to paste it. So we want to have it sitting right on the edge over here. And if we go back to save our document and go to File and then go to Print, now we see the address in the top corner here. So we want a nice, clean, simple address. I'm using Calibri font at font size 11. You can adjust that to whatever sort of preferences you want inside of the document, right? You can adjust it however you feel. So really what we want to do now is create a line to separate all this content. So I'm going to select this row here. So I'm going to left click, hold down the left mouse button to select all the way across. And I'm going to go to the border tool and I want to set top border here, top border. I'm going to click that. It's just going to draw this line across the top here. And we'll go to File, Print. We're going to have this line to separate the content above and the content below. If you want to add a little gap there, you can just click between rows 4 and 5, left click and drag down a little bit, just a little bit. All right. In fact, that's going to cause a problem. So if we click here, let's see, we want to top align this. So if we click this button, that will make sure the text sits at the top, and then we can have that gap there as well, right, between the text and the line and the logo. So if we print preview now, the address looks correct, and we just got a bit more space. It was quite close to the top there, so we add that little bit of space there by increasing the height of this row and then clicking on this cell and telling Excel that we want to align the content to the top in this particular cell. The other ones are fine as they are. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is add an invoice number and a date to our document. So to do that, what we'll do is click on this row number 6 and we're going to type in invoice number, and we'll put two little dots there. Now normally when I create a unique invoice number, I use an acronym, so I use like the L and the T, so maybe LTSR, so E for El Toro, E for L, T for Toro, S for Spanish, and L for the restaurant. So we do ELTSR, right? So that's an acronym of that word or that name of the restaurant, and then we just put in the date. So it's 2021, and then we put in 3 zeros or 4 zeros, 3 or 4, and then 1 at the end. So that will be the first invoice number. I explained that more in the bookkeeping tutorial. So if you want to watch the bookkeeping tutorial, how to generate unique invoice numbers, then you should really watch that tutorial. That will explain it in more detail. So the next thing we want to do is go to this column or this cell here and type in date, and we'll put in today's date, which is the 2nd of the, let's in fact just put the 1st of the 10th 2021, and we'll hit the enter key, and that will automatically right align it. Yeah, so it's going to right align, and you can see that here. So we can grab this row 5 and drag it up a little bit, so we have a little gap there. Let me zoom in right here. So let's undo that. Let's just undo that. Okay, let's just zoom in here so you can see a bit more clearly. So between here and here, I'm just going to drag up this cell so we leave a little gap here. We can do this as a specific number, so let's just see. It's around 5 pixels, so let's call it 3 in height. So to do it more accurately, you can click on here, right click, and then we should be able to do row height. And inside row height, I'm going to type in the number 3 and click OK, and that will leave a 3 gap here. I'm going to click on this one, right click, go to row height, and also set that to a number 3. So we leave this little gap in between the content, and then we can decide, do we want to add a border there? So what we can do is select this row here, and then we can go to our border tool, and it's already selected the top one, but you can click on the drop down and select top border, and then we'll have a line that draws above or below, above and below the invoice number and then the date. And you can then go ahead and select this if you want, and you can change its background color. You can use a different color like an orange color. You can go to more colors and you can select a specific orange color maybe that will suit the logo. So that's kind of like a pale orange, and this is like a pale orange here. You can click on custom and then really tweak out the orange color, or get the RGB value and paste it in here exactly what it is. Let's just click OK. So if we want to be very specific, they're kind of off colors, they're not exactly the same. So if we were to go to something like Photoshop, or you can do this in GIMP software as well, let's do this as accurately as possible because I want your invoice to look as good as possible. So if we open up Photoshop, we can use the color picker tool to pick out the exact color of that orange, and then we can use that in Excel. So really what we should do is make a little notepad file here, and we can just call it colors, and then we can get the red and the orange color and find out the exact values. Let's drag that logo into Photoshop. You can do this in GIMP software as well. Should be able to open this. Let's see. I think it's thinking about it. Here it is. And we'll use the foreground select tool. So here's our foreground select tool, and here you can see the RGB value for the blue color, but I'm going to use the color picker tool. So when you just roll your mouse or move the icon over it, you can click here, and this will be the exact orange color. So we can go to our little notepad file, and in here we'll just type in orange, and that will be the color for orange. And then the other one is red, right? It's like this dark red color. So we can click on the red color now, and we can get that value as well. Now we have those specific values, and you can ask your designer for those color codes, but now we can make that color exactly in Excel, and then it will go with our branding a bit better. So let's copy this orange color, copy that value. I'll leave that to the side for the moment, and I know this is a little bit longer than you would normally do, but let's be accurate as possible. So we can select that, we can go back to our color, go to more colors, and then we can go to custom color, and now we can paste in that value. Let's put a hash at the beginning, so it needs like a hash at the beginning, and we can click OK, and now that orange is exactly the same as that orange. They match, right? Or very close to what they should be. So you can make it orange, you can make it red, you can change the font color inside. If you want to change it to white, you can make it white like this, but I would advise leave it black, because if anyone prints this out on a black and white computer, then that's going to show out a little bit better. So I kind of like that. The invoice number, what I'm going to do is double click inside this cell. I'm going to select this text here and make it bold, and then I'm going to double click inside this cell, select the date text and make that bold as well. So now the invoice number and the date stand out. I'm trying to keep, reserve as much space for our content as possible, because that will just help us with our design later when we want to put in all of the details for the values for what we're charging. Yeah. So the other thing we want to do is add a 3 value here. So we're going to right click on this row, go to row height, and just set it to 3. So just remember that number 3, that's going to be our default row height for our gaps. Then we can start to create more content here, and we want to put an address in here, right? So we want to put the billing address and also the delivery address. So what we'll do is click here and we'll type in billing address, and then we can just type the address in here, whatever that's going to be. So we just make up an address, but for now what we want to do is select these 3 rows, these 3 here, and we're going to put in fact we'll do the lines and everything afterwards. So billing address, let's make that bold, and we'll type in a fictional address here. So let's just type in, we'll just put a placeholder address in here so that we can replace it later. So it'll be Test Road, let's put it in as Ilford, Essex, and then the postcode IG1 2NR, IG1 3NR. So that's just a made up address. Let's just see how our document is looking. So we'll go to print, and now we can see our document with the billing address. I think we maybe need a bit more of a gap there, right? The 3 is probably a little bit tight across the top here. So let's go to that row, this one here. Let's right click it, and let's go to format cells, and not format cells, let's right click and go to row height, and we'll set it to a value of 6. There's just a little bit more of a gap here now between the billing address and the invoice number above, and this will be our billing address. Let's copy this text and we're going to paste it here, and this will be the delivery address. So we'll put the billing address here, the delivery address over on this side, and then we can just do a little bit of work in Excel to add some borders and stuff around it. So we might just put a line above and a line below, might be sufficient enough. So let's just try that. Let's select these rows here, these three, and we'll go to the top border. So we can just click that already, and we'll select the ones below, and we'll do top border here. So in fact, we need to select this row here, right? This one here, the empty one, and then do top border. So we've got a line above and a line below. You could put it in a box if you want. We can select this one, and let's just try it and see what it looks like this. So now we've got lines separating the content. If we go to our print preview, then we can see that in Excel now, right? You can hold down the control key and zoom in a little bit. I think it might be nice if we put like a full box around it. So what we can do is select all of the content, select all of it, and then we'll go to the border tools and we'll do outside border. Now there's a box around it, and we'll select this one, and we can also do outside border here as well, outside border. So they're not exactly the same width and height and stuff. That doesn't really matter too much. As long as you've got enough space to type in the full address across here, it should be fine, right? And we could make this font slightly smaller. I think it needs to be a little bit smaller. So I'm going to set it to a 10 value. So it's just a little bit smaller on this side, and then on this side as well, we'll set it to 10. And the font will be a little bit smaller than the titles above, which I think looks a little bit better. And let's just go to File, Print, and we can see that now we've got the billing address and the delivery address. I'm not convinced that looks good, so what we might do is put a border around the whole element and then get rid of the borders down the side here. I think that will look better. So what we'll do is select everything here, go to borders and say no border, and then go back to borders and then say outside border. Now we've got one that sits around the whole content. Let's see how that looks. I think that's a bit better, right? Like this looks a bit better. Then we've got to put the rest of the content. So now we need to design the elements that will be for our actual invoice information. So let's save this document as we go along. I'm going to zoom out a little bit because we need to see more of the content. And on this row 14, I'm just going to right click on it, go to row height and set that to a value of 6. We're going to leave like this 6 gap here, then we're going to start our content underneath here. Okay, so now we want to start adding the information in for our invoicing, that the actual figures and the numbers that we're going to be invoicing. So over here in this final column, the one right on the far right here on row 15, I'm going to type in net, N-E-T, and then the one next to it I'm going to type in unit price, and then the one next to that I'm going to type in quantity. And then over here on the left hand side I'm going to type in product description, or you can just type in description. It doesn't have to say product description, it can just say description. You can get rid of the word products if it doesn't apply to your business. If you're not selling a physical product or some sort of service, you can get rid of that. So what we can do now is select all of these cells here up until G, right? These ones for the product description, and then we're going to click here and click merge across, or just click merge cells here, merge cells, and that will become one big cell itself, right? And then we can now highlight all of these cells and we can make it a color. Maybe we'll make this that red color. So let's see how that works out. I'm going to make this bold, so I'm going to select everything here and press Ctrl B, and then we can go to our little notepad file. Over here I've got that red color, right? So I'm going to copy this, copy it, and it's already selected. So now we can just go ahead and go to the cells, more colors here, the colors, and we'll go to custom and we'll paste that value in here. Just put a hash at the beginning and click OK. Now we've got that dark red color, but you can see the text is quite dark, so I'm going to select this and make the font white so it stands out. So now you've got the product description, you've got all the information about the product, and all that's going to sit underneath. And we want to allocate a specific number of rows, right? And we want to try and allocate quite a few rows. I'm going to zoom out a little bit here just so that I can see everything. And this is the bottom of our spreadsheet, so we can fit in quite a lot of rows here, right? We can fit maybe up to row 40, even up to row 50, right? Up to 50 we can do. So we can have that many rows of content in our spreadsheet for our invoice. Whether you'll need that many or not, that's kind of optional, but I'm going to leave a little bit of space towards the bottom. So I'm going to go up to like row 45 because we want to do some calculations down here, and then maybe put something about billing information, where to send the invoice to, and the payment terms, and some notes. So in fact, let's go to row 40. I think this should be enough. This would be quite a few rows to work with. So what we need to do is let's select this row, and then we'll click. We can just right click and then select. Let's see. In fact, what we do, select this row and then go to here and select merge cells, and we just need to repeat this across, going down. I'm not sure if we can copy this and paste it. Let's see. Yeah, we can just copy and paste it. That's a lot quicker. So we can select this first one, go down and paste it, press Control V here. In fact, let's undo that and let me explain that a bit better. So we've got each one of these as a cell, right? And we want to make it one big cell like this. So first thing we'll do is select this cell, and let's make sure we left align it as default, so then all the content starts getting typed from the left. We'll select that cell, press Control C or Command C on the Mac, and then go down to the cell below and then press Control V or Command V, and then use your arrow key on your keyboard, the down arrow key, and that will take it to the next row, and then just press Control V or Command V on the Mac, right? And just keep doing that all the way down the spreadsheet. We might even be able to select multiple rows and paste them. Let's see. Yeah, you can select multiple ones with your mouse, so you can select all of these up to row 40, and that should give us like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. So let's make it 24. Should be good, right? That's 24 different rows of information you can put into a spreadsheet about the services that you're providing. That should be sufficient. If you're doing a sale and you've got 24 rows to put in the data, that should be pretty good. We've made a mistake here though, so we need to kind of undo this. Sometimes we make mistakes, so let's show you how to fix them. Because we've taken the quantity column and we've merged that into the product description. We didn't want that. So I'm just going to press Control Z to just undo all of that. Let's just undo all of this. And I'm going to select this row here. And I want to unmerge cells. Unmerge cells. And that will put it back to its original state. Now we can select just these ones and not the quantity one. And we can go back to merge cells. Sometimes we make mistakes. We need to know how to fix them. So if I ever make a mistake, let's show you how to actually fix it. I'm going to copy this value. So just click on it, press Control C to copy, and or Command C on the Mac. And we're going to select, let's see, we're going to select, let's try and select all of these first and press Control V or Command V. And that should paste it down, and each one will be a separate row now. I want to get down to row 40. So I'm going to hold down the Shift key and click here. Left click and then press Control V, and that will paste that cell down and merge it for us, right? All the way down. So now that we've got that done, we can select all of this up to row 40. Let's just zoom out a little bit for you. So I'm going to click on this first cell, go down to row 40 and click on this one here. So I'm selecting this whole block, and then I want to go to the borders and select all borders, and now we have the border set out. But for this top one, I'm going to select the whole row, and I'm going to go back to borders, and I'm going to say let's see, no border for the first one, and then I'm going to select it again, and let's see, I want to do a bottom border. In fact, what we could do, let's see, let's go to File, Print, and let's see what it looks like. This one I want to just have I don't want a border underneath this part here, you see, where the product description is. So to do that, let's go back, let's select this row here, row 17, and we'll select all borders. Now that one has all of the borders, and really we want we just want borders down the side here, like on the sides, right? So if we select all of these ones and go to borders, and we want left border, and then let's do right border, and that should put one on the far side here and here. Let's see if that worked. Let's go to print. Now we can see the border on the side here and here, but we just need to do it for these two here. So we can click on this cell, go to left border, go to right border, and then do the same on this one. Really, we only need the right one on this one, the right one, because we've already got it set on the left. Let's check it again, print. And now we've got the spreadsheet here. You could put a border around this top one as well. Maybe it will look okay. Maybe we'll give that a go. Let's select it and then do all borders. I think that will look okay actually. Let's see print preview. Yeah, that looks fine, right? So the top one's got borders around it as well. So now we're able to do our data entry and put our content in there. But we need a couple of extra rows at the bottom. So what we'll do is scroll down the spreadsheet, and in here we're going to type in total cost, and then here we're going to put total VAT, and then here we're going to put total charge, right? Total charge. We're going to select these cells, only these ones, and we're going to do all borders for these ones, all borders. And now we've got borders down here where we're going to put values in and do some calculations in Excel for calculating VAT and calculating the total charge and so forth. So let's zoom out a little bit here, and in the product description, this is typically what I do in my business. I'm not sure, I'm not convinced this should be red, to be fair. Let me just click on this one, right click and go to its row height, and we can see we set the row height to 15 here, right? 15. So I'm going to click OK. I'm going to go to this row, this actual row 15, right click here and go to its row height, and it's also set to 15 as well. So expecting the other one to be a bit taller. I think this one looked a bit taller, maybe because it's got the gap above and below it, the little gap above and below it. Let's click this one and center it. We use this centering tool. Just want to make it a bit bigger, something like this. I'm going to set it to, let's right click, format cells, and right click and go to row height, and I want to set it to like 18. I want a little gap above it and below it. It looked a bit too tight there. I think this should be orange. I'm not convinced it should be this red color. So, you know, we have to change things sometimes. So we can go into our assets, colors, and we've got our orange color here. I'm just going to make that orange. I think it will look better. So let's select this, go to our colors, more options, custom, and we'll paste in this orange color and click OK. I think it looks a bit more consistent, and now we can select these and make them black font again. So you can click automatic and it will turn it back to black. I think that looks better. It's entirely your choice what you think. You can change that or leave it as it is. It's up to you. But here we want to type in what we were going to invoice to the customer, right? Whatever the work is. So I'm just going to type in website design, and in fact I'm going to select all of these cells, all of these ones. So I'm going to left click here, scroll down, hold down the shift key and select this one, and I want to set them to a smaller font size. I'm going to set it to 10. So all of these now will have a 10 value in them, and the headers will have the headers are set to 10 as well. So let's see, this one was set to 11. So let's select all of these and we'll set them to an 11 value up here. So the headers will be slightly bigger than the content that goes below. So let's say website design, logo design, social media setup, and then we could do website hosting, and we could do domain registration, and we could keep listing all of the different services that we're providing to the customer. Some of them might be multiples, right? So things like newsletter design may be more than one. You may even do more than one logo. You might have done 10 websites for the client. You're billing them all in one go, but we can put all of the different values into here. I'm just going to put in some typical stuff that I do for my clients, like leaflet design. We also do letter heads and social media artwork, right? So here's some examples. You can see I've got plenty more space to type in more of the services that I'm providing. And you might put t-shirts in here. Like if you're selling t-shirts, then it might be t-shirts. If you're selling other types of services like consultancy, then you can type in the consultancy information into here. You can describe it, and you've got plenty of space to describe these things. So for this client, as an example, I did one website. I did 3 logos, right? And we did we set up 3 social media accounts. So in social media, I might type in Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. So we set up those accounts. It's worth describing in here which social media accounts. You can see these are like right aligned and these are left aligned. So let's select all of these rows here. So let's click on the first one here, this one in quantity. Scroll down, hold down the shift key, select these by clicking here, left clicking, and then just do left align. Do left align here, and then everything will be left align, or you could center it if you want, center it, but I think left align is fine. For website hosting, it will be 1, and normally I type in 1 year, so it's 1 year of website hosting, and then that might renew every year. And then the same with the domain name, right? The domain name, but we might have registered 2 different domains, so I might type 1 year and then type in .co.uk and .com. So I registered both a .co.uk and a .com for the client. Newsletter design, we did, let's say, 3 examples. Leaflets, we did 1. Letterheads, we did 1. And social media artwork, we did 10 different social media artwork. Let's make it, in fact, 9, because we've got 3 accounts: Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We did 3 different designs for those 3 different social media networks. So now we've got the quantity, we've got the services that we're providing. We need the unit price. So for website design, what we need to do is select these, hold down the left mouse button, select this row as well. So you're selecting both of these columns, let's say, and then scroll down and then click here, left click, and that will select all of that data. I'm going to right click on it, go to format cells, and we want to set this to a currency value. And we're going to leave it at 2 decimal places. You can do like £10.95 or whatever it is. And I'm going to leave it as a default value. On your computer, it may say dollars or pounds or whatever currency that you have. Mine happens to be pounds, right? I'm going to click OK. And we're going to type some values in here. So I'm going to type in, for website design, let's do 895. And that's the unit price. And then what we'll do is in here, we want to type in a formula. So we're going to type in equals. So this quantity times by the unit price. So this will be this value. So I'm going to left click on it, which is H16. I'm going to hold down the shift key and press number 8 on my keyboard, which is the star sign, which is the multiplication sign in Excel. And I'm going to click on the unit price, and then I'm going to hit enter. So it's going to do 1 times 895 equals 895. Logo design, let's say we charged, as an example, let's say we charge £45 per logo. So the unit price for each logo is £45. I'm going to click on this cell here, press Ctrl C, and then press Ctrl V to paste it down. And 3 times £45 is 135. Social media setup, we charged £45 an account. We can cut and paste this down. 1 year website hosting, 195. And normally it's 1 year website hosting and SSL certificate, right? And normally that renews once every year. So it's 195. We can just click this cell, cut it and paste it down, and it's going to do the maths for us. Domain registration, each domain is £15, and you can see it's already doing that. Excel is kind of learning what we're doing. It's going to work out that value. It's using a bit of intelligence, let's say. It's going to work out that value. 2 times 15 is 30. Newsletter design was 125, and then that equals 375. Leaflet design was, let's say, 60, and then that will be 60 value, 1 times 60, right? Letterheads was 75, and then social media artwork was at £15 per artwork, that equals 135. So now you've got all of the values calculated for you. You haven't got to do the maths, but you have the quantities here and the unit price for each one of those. So each one of these 3 was 45, 3 45s equals 135. So that's how we use Excel to run a formula to do those calculations. Now we need the total cost. So we can click here. Let's try one thing. I'm going to left click here, drag all the way up to the top here, and then click auto sum, and it's going to give us the value 2035, right? So I always like to check that these things are working correctly, because you don't want to invoice the incorrect amount, not too much and not too little. So we'll just double check this. I know 100% is correct, but we'll just double check it anyway, because I like to double check things. So 895, and then we can do plus 135 plus another 135 plus 195 plus 30 plus 375 plus 60 plus 75, and then finally plus 135, and equals 2035. So we know our calculations in Excel are correct. I'll normally do that once just to double check, make sure everything is good, and then I know this spreadsheet is working correctly. This value down here, I want to left align it, left align, and I'm going to make it bold, and then we need to work out the VAT. So this is the price excluding VAT. So now we need to calculate the VAT, and we're going to use Excel to do that. And it depends on your country, right? So in UK it's 20%, in your country it might be 15%, it might be 22.5%, it might be different values. So let's show you how to do the calculations in here. So I'm going to click on this cell, and I'm going to type in the equal sign, and I'm going to click on this value here, and I'm going to type in times by, and I'm going to type in 0.2, and I'm going to hit enter. And £407 is 20% of this value. So if I left align this and make it bold, let's just copy this value 2035. We'll open up the spreadsheet and we'll paste that in, and we'll do times 0.2, and that gives us £407. Let's just double check that calculation on the internet. So we can go to my website, DCP Web, we can go to tools, and then we can go to VAT calculator here, and enter the cost excluding VAT is 2035. You can type in any value here. So this is 20%. We'll click calculate. We have to get rid of this pound sign and get rid of the commas, right? So it would just be like 2035 like this, and then click calculate. We can see it's 407, and we can see the total is 2,422. So you can use this tool on my website. Just go to DCP Web, click tools, and you can use the VAT calculator right here. VAT calculator, and that will give you those values in here. So we know that that value that's been calculated is correct. Now let's just say that your business charge is 22%, for example. So then we can just change that value in here in Excel, this one, to put a 22 at the end, so 0.22, and that will be 22%, right, of the value. So if we type in 22 here and hit enter, which is 447.70. 447.70. Let's say it was 17.5%. So a bit of an obscure number. So we do 175, 17, but you don't put the decimal place in. You just put the 5 in there, and that will be 17.5%. In the UK, at one point, we were charging 17.5% for VAT. Click calculate. 356.13. 356.13. Right, so this is how you use Excel to calculate the different VAT values. I'm going to leave it at 20, or just 0.2. That's 20%. The total charge, we're going to click the equal sign. We're going to click on this value, and then we're going to hold down the shift key and press the plus sign. So that's on your keyboard, use the plus sign, and then we'll click on the bottom value and hit the enter key. Now we've got our grand total. We can click that, and we can right align it, and we can make that bold. Let's save this work, and let's go to file, and let's go to print, and now we can see our invoice. We can see the invoice number, the date, the billing address, the delivery address, the product descriptions, all of our calculations, the total VAT, and we've got some space down here to ask clients where they need to pay their bill, payment terms, additional notes. We can put a bit more information towards the bottom here. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's just make sure we can see this a bit clearly for you. Let me just zoom out and just check this. So we've got up until this dotted line to fit the rest of our content. What I want to do is I want to leave a gap here. So I'm going to right click here, and I'm just going to select this row, left click, right click, go to row height, and I'm going to set it to a value of 6 and click OK. So there's going to be a little bit of a gap here, right, between our next bit of content. And I want to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows. So I'm going to click here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows, and I'm going to select all the way across these 5 rows. I'm going to go to merge cells here. So let's try that again. Merge cells here. So that's one big block, and I'm going to go to the borders, and I'm going to select outside border only. So now we've got a section in here that we can type additional information. So I'm going to click inside. And let's just see, we want to click in here and set it to top align. That way you can start the content from the top. I'm going to say payment to be made to the following bank account. And you can put in your bank details in here. So if you click inside here, you should be able to, let's see. So right now, if we click enter, it doesn't go down onto the next row. So to fix that, we've done this slightly wrong, but we can fix it quite quickly. What we'll do is just press Ctrl Z to undo this. We'll need just unmerge this, or we can click everything in here. Just select everything, select that block. Let's unmerge it. We did a slight mistake here. Let's unmerge it, and we can then select everything and just draw the border around it, right? Say outside borders. So now it will look the same in when we, although it's got separate cells in here, when we do the print preview and we print out the document, it still looks like it's one big block. It doesn't have individual cells because we haven't drawn borders around everything, right? Now we can type in each row separately. So we can do payment to be made to the following bank account. And then we're just going to type in the word bank. And we're just going to call it Bojo Bank. Anyone knows who Bojo is in London, then or in the UK, you understand what that is. But if you don't, it doesn't matter. Account name, and that will be the company name, right? So the name would be El Toro Spanish Restaurant. We're just going to call it El Toro, ELTORO Limited, or something like this. And then the account number, and that's just going to be some random numbers I'm going to make up. So don't send any money to that number because it won't arrive, and you know, it's just a fake number. Sort code, and in your country the details that you type in here might be slightly different, but these typically the information that I would give to a UK based customer. You can put an IBAN number in here and a SWIFT code, but normally if I'm doing payments overseas, like if I've got a customer that's based overseas, normally I send them this information plus this, the IBAN number and the SWIFT code in the email when I send them the document, right? I don't normally put it in here because 99% of my customers are UK based, and this is all they ever need to make payment. So then underneath here, what we're going to type in is payment terms, and we'll put 2 dots there, and we'll make that bold. And then I'm going to select this, right click here, I'm going to go to the height. Let's do that, right click, and we'll go to row height, and I'm going to set it to a value of what was it before, 18, right? 18. So that will be the row height, and I'm going to center out this content, center it, and that will be the same height as this one here. And I want to write in here 30 days from invoice date. I'm going to make that bold as well, and then maybe we'll highlight this a color. Maybe we'll make this section, let's make it all orange, right? Let's be consistent. So let's take that orange color and we'll highlight this whole row, and we'll go to here. In fact, we can just click here, right? It's already like a predefined color, I believe. Let's click it and check it. Yeah, so that will be like the last color that we used, and we can draw a border around this as well. Maybe we'll draw a border. Let's do outside border, and we'll save this. You can make this information a bit bigger if you want it to be a bit more prominent, but I think that's okay, right? Let's just check it in this print preview, and then you have like your payment terms down here. Right, so almost got a nice looking spreadsheet, sorry, an invoice, right? Pretty decent. We can improve it in terms of visuals, but for me, invoices need to be functional. It's not necessarily about so much the design. It needs to look half decent, don't get me wrong, but most importantly, it needs to be able to have enough space so you can fit your content in there. It needs to be laid out and be clear. As long as it does those things, then you've got a pretty good invoice to work from, right? You shouldn't have any problems. So down here, what I want to do is click here, and I want to add one of these gaps, right, which was line height 6. So we're going to go to here, row height, and we're going to do 6 value. So we've got a little gap there, and in here I'm going to select 3 rows, and we're going to create a border around them, all borders, and in here, we're just going to type at the top here, additional notes, and inside additional notes we're going to select these cells, just these ones, and we're going to click merge cell here, additional notes, and in here we can type in whatever we want. We can maybe make this bold as well. So let's just go to file, print, and we can see that. Now we've got a section here where we can type additional notes. So this might be, in fact, we want to click here and top align it. Let's just top align it. So inside we can start typing any additional notes. So you might type something to the customer. This is your final payment for completed work. Or you might type something like this. Imagine if you're delivering physical products. Your client might say, if I'm not in the office, or if I'm away, or if you're delivering it to someone's house, you might say deliver to neighbor. If you're sending some like t-shirts or products, or physical product to the customer, to the delivery address, you might put a note in here to say deliver it to the neighbor, for example, right? So I'm going to delete this because normally we type only stuff in there that we actually need. And on this very bottom row, in fact, let's see, on this one here, what I want to do, let's see, I want to type in the registered office. So normally on the invoice you put your registered office address. You don't have to, but typically it's a good idea to put your registered office address. It makes you look a bit more established as well. So we're just going to make this address up, 321 Glen, so road, and then we'll do so that will be the registered office address. I'm going to select this one and I'm going to make it a font size of 8. I'm going to make it pretty small, maybe 9 will be okay. Font size 9, and I'm going to click inside here, and then I'm going to put a space in and a hyphen or a little dash, and I'm going to put in company number, and then in your country you might have a company number. In UK we have company numbers, right, when we register a business. So we can just put in a company number. I'm just going to make that up. I'm going to put another space, dash, and then a space. I'm going to type in VAT number. So we have to have a VAT number in the UK, and I'm going to make that number up like so. Maybe we can get away with making it slightly bigger. We put it to 109. I'm going to set it to 10 value. Right, and we could select all of this whole row now. We can select the whole row, and we can just actually click merge and center, and that will center out the text at the bottom like this. You could put a line there to separate it from the content above, but I think it should be fine. Let's just go to file and print preview, and now we can see the whole document here from top to bottom completed. So now you can go and take your logo, your branding, design out your invoice template. I know we made a few mistakes in here, but sometimes when we're designing things, especially on the fly, when I'm doing this, you know, literally as I'm speaking and trying to get this to work, we make mistakes, and when we make mistakes we need to learn how to fix them. So we made a few mistakes in here, but that's not a problem. I like to sometimes not necessarily make mistakes, but if they do happen, I like to show you how to fix them so that you know how to fix them in the future. And you can create all types of documents. It might be a packaging note. Now you can create this style of document and create a packaging note. Typically those ones will just have quantity and the product price, so the quantity and the description, but not the product prices and stuff, and the VAT, and all of this other stuff wouldn't really be there in a packaging note, but you'd have the billing and the delivery details, and maybe some packaging note invoice number and something like this, right? But you're learning some good skills in Excel. We've got a nice thin border around the edge. So one thing we want to do is click save and close this for the moment. I just want to explain a couple of other things. Let's close down this web browser, and we're going to go back to here. So we've got an invoice template here now, right? And now we want to send an invoice to one of our customers. So what I'll normally do is just right click, drag this down and copy it here. So I'll make a copy of this invoice template, and I'm going to right click and rename it, or you can press F2, or you can double left click to rename it as well. Let's just give this a second. Don't know why it's not responding. Let's give it 1 second. Let's see. Let me just close and try and close this. Let's just open it again, the folder. And you can just click on it and press F2 on your keyboard. You should be able to just right click and rename, but for some reason it's not doing that. I don't know, I have to look at that afterwards. But I'm just going to click on it and then press F2 to rename it. So when we rename the invoice, we need to give it a sensible number. Now normally it's the invoice number that I put first, right? So it'll be 0001, that's the invoice number. And then I put the date. So it will be the 12th, so it'll be the 2nd. Today's date is the 2nd of the 12th, the 2nd of the 10th, 2021. And then I put the company name. So I'm just going to put in test company, right? So I've got the invoice number, which is a unique number. I've got the date, and then I've got the company name. So if I do order by, it will always sit with the invoice number at the bottom. So when I open this now, and I explain a lot of this in the bookkeeping tutorial, you know, you'd go in here and you'll change the invoice number to, well, it's actually set to 0001, right, already. And then the date, you would set that to 2, and then you'll change the address details in here. You can change the address details. I think there's one thing we really missed out in here, which would make sense to have it there. So let's just close this. Let's not save it. Let's delete this that temporary invoice. Let's open up this invoice template. And there's one kind of critical thing that we're missing from here, is the company name, right? We don't have the name of the company that we're billing. So what we could do is we're a bit tight on space, but we can fix that quite quickly. Either we can delete a row here and then have that row to add in here. I think that would be wise. So if we right click and insert row, so we've got a row now that we can add for the company name, but then our spreadsheet is going to drop down here. So if we click here and delete one of these rows here, let's just see, and let's just go to file and print, and then go back again. We can see our line sits correctly at the bottom here, and now we've got this extra. Basically we deleted one of these rows and added one here. So we can just call this example company Ltd, and we'll left click outside, click in here, and then we'll press Ctrl B or click here to make it unbold, and we can copy that and paste it across here. So the delivery details and the billing details should really contain the name of the company that you're going to be sending it to. It makes sense, right? So now we can save this document and we can close it. And like I explained in my bookkeeping tutorial, I'll show you how to replicate this invoice template and make many versions of it to send out to many different companies. So let's just right click on this, copy it down. We'll make a copy here, and then we'll click on this, press F2, and we'll put the invoice number in first, because then all of the invoices that we create will always be in numerical order. So we do 0001, that's the first invoice we're going to create. So we can create 9,999 invoices before we have to rotate back around to 001 again. So you know, you're going to have to generate a lot of invoices in order to come all the way around to that value 01 again. Alright, so 0001, then we want to put in the date. The date will be the 2nd of the 10th, 2021, and I don't put spaces in there. I just like to do the date like this, and then it will be the name of the company was example company, right? So this is a copy of that master spreadsheet. We never touch the master spreadsheet. That's our default template. We always make copies of it, and we can open up this now, and we would simply type in the company name here. We'll type in our invoice number, so it might be invoice number 2. If it's the second invoice, then you put a 2 in here. This one happens to be the first invoice. The date's going to change to 02, right? And inside the invoice template, if you had services that you typically provide quite often, then what you can do is just delete the services that you're not providing anymore. So for this particular client, you can just delete them. And then you can just change these values. So you can say, well, we only set up 2 social media accounts and we did Facebook and Instagram only. So you can just delete this and all the calculations will be done for you automatically. All of the updates here will be done automatically as well. So a lot of the functionality will be automated for you. Logo design, you may only have done 1 logo design. So you just type in number 1 and this 135 will change to 45. So it'll be 1 times the 45, right? And domain registration, you may have already registered a .co.uk for the client and you type a number 1 here and then that will update as well. And then you can just go to file and go to print, go to save as PDF. And we want to do actual size here, and then the sheet, the current sheet that we selected, click convert to PDF, and we're going to save it into the same folder. Click save, give it a second, and then we can close down Excel. And inside the folder we've got a spreadsheet that we never send to the customer. We never send them the Excel, we send them the PDF version. So when we open up this PDF, now we've got the invoice template in here. You can see that, and we've got all the information laid out. Normally when you print this, it will be a bit clearer as to what's going on. We've got kind of a line here that shouldn't be there, this line here, right? So we need to fix that. We'll fix that in a second, but you've got the whole document here ready to go. So when I use this invoice template in my own business, all I ever change is this to the next number. I change the date, I change the address, and the delivery address, normally I leave that blank because a lot of the times I'm doing work that is digital. So I never actually deliver the product to a physical or have a physical product to deliver. So normally I don't even have this delivery address. I just normally leave it blank. But the billing address I update, and the product quantities and everything I update. This all does its own work. This you never need to change. The payment terms with the customer, you might set it to 14 days or 7 days or pay immediately. You can add your notes in here, and then you've got your your registered office address and your company number and that good stuff down at the bottom. And that's probably everything you need inside of this document to send to the customer. So we need to just fix this here. There seems to be like an error here. Can you see this line? We want to get rid of that. So we'll fix it in the master template, and we can fix it in that temporary invoice. If we scroll in here, we can see there's a line here. So we're just going to select these 2 cells in here, these 2, or we can just select this one. This one should be fine, and we can go to here and we can say no borders, and then that line will get removed. Now that line that was an error, we can save this now, and then we can close this, and we just need to fix it in this invoice that we copied, right? That error. So we'll click here, go to here, and we'll go to no borders, save it, go to file, go to save as PDF again, click convert, and we're going to overwrite the original PDF, save it, and then we can close this, and then we should have a copy here of our PDF, and that error has been fixed there as well. So hopefully you can now go and create your own invoice template. It's quite easy to do, and rather than just downloading one from the internet, you can now create your own custom version. I think that's quite important, when you can customize the invoice yourself and lay out exactly what you want and have the amount of rows that you want, and it just gives you a bit more control. Plus you learn some skills in Excel, which is worth having, I believe, right? It's worth having these skills in Excel. Let's go ahead and close this, and we'll close this down. I know that we made a few mistakes in this tutorial, but that's just how sometimes tutorials go. I like to leave those mistakes in there and explain how to fix them. I've seen a lot of tutorials where people make mistakes but they just edit them out, so you never get to see how to fix those problems. So when you have these problems now, at least you know how to fix them, and you learn some new skills in Excel as well. Okay, if you'd like to learn about that bookkeeping tutorial, I'll put links in the YouTube description. Remember, there's over 180,000 views on those bookkeeping tutorials. So if you're just starting up business and you don't want to pay for online software, there's a lot of companies out there that you can do your bookkeeping online. But for 17 years in my business, this is how I've done it, using my bookkeeping system, and it's saved me a lot of money, and it can save you a lot of money too. Okay, that's the end of this tutorial. I hope you find it useful, and I look forward to seeing you in the next DCP web tutorial.